Mic
Hello
off.
and welcome back to playoffs of the Simplicity Mock Overwatch League. Today we have Guangzhou versus Vancouver. This is the last quarterfinal match for the winners bracket. And I'm Cesian. Today I'm joined with Misfit. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I'm really excited to get this one underway here. Guangzhou is the highest remaining seed in the winners bracket now that New York was knocked down by San Francisco Shungite. Very, very big upset there, 3-0. I haven't had a chance to watch that one yet, but I was able to cast San Francisco's earlier match, and they played very, very well in that one. And that's important because, the winner of this game will play a different seed depending on which one of them wins, right? If Guangzhou wins, they will move on and face the lowest seed remaining, which will be San Francisco. But if Vancouver pulls off the upset, they will get to face, I believe we decided it was Royalty that they would be facing.
Yep.
I believe that
Mic
was
on.
it.
Yes, that's correct.
So definitely
Mic
some
off.
playoff implications moving forward here. Obviously, playoff implications, we're in playoffs. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this one goes. I know Guangzhou is very, very good at this sig ball meta, so I expect them to come out swinging, and I expect them to swing for the fences.
Yeah, and just like going over a quick recap of the other quarterfinal matches. So they've all been 3-0s. Houston beat Seoul 3-0. Dallas Boston forfeited to Dallas, so they have a 3-0. And then the one that everyone's been talking about is that match between the New York Prime and San Francisco Shungite. And I will remind you that San Francisco was all the way in the first round of the play-ins, and New York came in as the first seed. So this is about as big of an upset as you can get. Like this is not something that we were expecting, and obviously San Francisco did have a new roster come in near the end of the regular season, but it's still something to keep in mind that San Francisco coming in as a dark horse into these playoffs, and this match will decide if, like you said, if Guangzhou wins, they're going to have to play them. So we'll have to see what ends up happening there. And I know there's some new faces on Guangzhou as well since the last time they played. We have a new support line and a new tank. So we have Zecherman coming in on the main tank, and then a new backline of Galaxy and Pink. These are the new additions for Guangzhou. I know they're trying to fill in some holes to try and play up a little bit more SR, but they've been improving a lot lately. And but on the side of Vancouver, everything's been looking fairly the same. We have just the same tank line as before. We have Eevee, Scoob, and then Trev and Vraja. And Trev is who we're really talking about the last time Vancouver played. Trev was the person we were talking about, came into this Vancouver squad, a little bit of growing pains, but was able to really bring Vancouver back from the early deficit of them losing Fusion early on in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Vancouver has definitely made a lot of strides getting back into this one. Of course, very, very tall order having them go up against Guangzhou, who's been very, very dominant in the league, only losing to the New York Prime. And I guess, if we got to get in predictions here, I have to give it to Guangzhou. They are the clear favorites in this game. You can't count Vancouver out just yet, but Guangzhou has been consistently one of the best teams in this tournament all season long. And it's hard to expect anything other than a win coming from them. They have depth all throughout the roster. They have really, really good players just on the bench right now. We see their starting lineup: Zeechman, Viper, Kabosu, Miracle, Galaxy, Pink, like you mentioned, right? But Ping Central, Mr. Crit, King Kong Poppy, they're all on the bench, and they're all very, very solid players in their own right. So, if things aren't working out, we can definitely see some swaps for those players. You mentioned there were some SR things that they're trying to get around. Let's talk a little bit about the players that we do see in this match. The ones that I would like to highlight the most, I would say, would be Miracle. Miracle is the only new player to the Guangzhou roster since I have been affiliated with them. I haven't seen too much of Pink outside of watching their Simplicity matches. Haven't seen too much of Galaxy play. Haven't been to scrim there. But Miracle rang for a Bench Boys scrim, which is the Guangzhou is the parent team of Bench Boys. Bench Boys was my team before I started focusing on casting. And Miracle rang for them, and I got to see him perform, and he's kind of crazy with it. In this meta where DPS can have such a big impact if they're playing correctly, if they're getting to their spots, if they're coordinating with their ball, that those tracers, those echoes, they can go crazy. And Miracle is nuts at that kind of thing. We want to relate to another player in the league. We saw Zyphon do a very, very good job on San Francisco. I would say Miracle is up there, if not better than Zyphon. at that role. So, definitely keep an eye on him as we move forward with this game.
Yeah, and I have been coaching Guangzhou a little bit ever since the end of the season and Hangzhou falling apart. And I will confirm that Miracle's pretty crazy. He is very mechanically skilled on both the Tracer and the Echo. With this lineup with Kabosu, he's definitely going to be playing the Tracer. Kabosu is generally the flex DPS player that they're going to be using to play the Echo. The other lineups we would see, like with Mr. Crit or even Dalton coming in, would probably indicate that we're going to go more double hit scan with the Tracer and the Ash or McCree. Right. And yep, so it's just going into this match, like Miracle is definitely one of those players to keep an eye on. I'm very excited to see him pop off. And we'll have to see if Trev on the other side, who's probably going to be playing the Tracer for Vancouver, we'll have to see if he'll be able to shut them down. And it's all going to be down to see, all going to be down to which team has the better synergy in the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk a little bit about the meta right now. Unfortunately, we are having some technical difficulties with one of the teams, so we will not be able to start right away. But we are. I would like to take this chance to go a little bit about the map that we're talking about and the way the meta plays on it. So we're getting into Control first, obviously, and the map that's chosen will be Oasis. Oasis is a very, I would say pretty standard map when it comes to Control. Typically on the Control map type, we see each different point has a different meta of some kind, right? Or at least one point has a wildly different meta than the other two. If you think about Lijiang, right? Night Market, Control Center, and Gardens don't have the same meta ever. I've rarely seen the same thing get played on those maps in any game, right? Oasis is kind of like that too. We typically don't see the same things on City Center that we do on University. Gardens can sometimes be the same as City Center or University, depending on the meta. Sometimes Brawl is good there. Sometimes Dive is good there. It kind of depends. But obviously in this meta, the Sigma Ball, Ash Echo, Brig Zen meta, I think that especially on City Center, we're going to see that. It's possible we will see it on University. I do think the door is open for some more, some brawlier comps in there. We could see some different variations. We could see a little bit of Ryan Sig. Don't know that we will, but it'll be a joy to see what these teams pull out here in this playoffs match.
Well, as it stands right now, we do see both teams hovering the Ryan Sig. Looks like Vancouver seems to be a little bit more committed to it as they have all the pieces locked in. Guangzhou still doing some shuffling, but they will end up deciding on to the Mei. They're both going to be playing Rush here, and actually a full mirror from both sides. So this is going to be very interesting to see which team is better at the neutral fighting. We already see Vancouver taking a very aggressive place up onto this side mini room, and it's forcing Vancouver to have to rotate back to main. But it is going to get matched. We're going to have to see. Wall comes out from Viraj, but immediately taken up by Kabosu. Miracle finds Evie as well, and that's a really good opening here for the side of Guangzhou. Trev does find Miracle in the back end. Looks like Guangzhou might have to come back a little bit, but they are going to be able to get the first point flip, and Ryan is already at 75% to his ult charge.
Yeah, in this Mei Kree composition, whichever Mei walls first typically has an advantage, but if you mess up the wall, the other team can just run down at you, and that is exactly what Guangzhou did. They saw that Vraja mess up the wall, and they just pressed W and were able to get picks off. And it's very, very heads-up play from Guangzhou.
Yeah, Vancouver coming back towards this mini room, trying to take the double chokes out. Wall comes out, doesn't really find anything, but Miracle finds Trev again, but a charge from Evie comes out, finds Kabosu, but he's gonna be traded for his life. Shatter comes out, finds the rest of the back line for Vancouver, and that's just a really quick team kill, and only one ultimate used.
Once again there, Vraja with the early wall, but it's not really good. They are able to pick Kabosu, but not before he's able to get that really good wall off that secures some picks for his team. And then Yoinks 24, which I believe is still Zecherman, comes up with the big shatter. Now, Window's not really going to get a lot. The wall was really good, and they were able to just kite away from it, so that's an ultimate down here for Guangzhou, but they still have a pretty good ult con with that Blizzard coming online.
Yeah, Window comes out from the other side of Vancouver. Wall does try to deny some of the damage, but they're in kind of no man's land right now. Shatter comes out, finds the front line. High Noon comes out from Miracle to try to find something on the return, but it does get LOS. Kabosu holding close on this angle is just going to have to force the ice block here. Galaxy just trying to stall as well. Pink poking, and Kabosu just trying to live as long as possible. The flank, but Miracle, he finds Trev, and he's just on Wild Flank. Does get taken up by Vraja, but looks like Kabosu is going to be committing to this as well, and that's going to force the flux from Scoob as well, and the mail from Vraja as well. lot of ults being traded back and forth from both teams. Beat comes out, another Flux comes out, but it looks like it's still all Vancouver in the kill feed. They are going to be able to clean this up, and that's really not exactly what you want to be looking for if you're Guangzhou, but you do at least have 70%.
Yeah, no, that was a little bit of overconfidence from them. After they lost that point, I thought they should have just backed out. But you could see, like, everyone on the team was ready to go in there. That was clearly a call. They clearly decided as a team that they were still going to commit to that. So just a bad decision from them right there. Shouldn't cost them too much. They looked like they still had their confidence going into this next fight.
Walking up, the hiding did come out from Trev, but another window comes out from Pink, and Shatter onto the backline. Doesn't really have, but the point is flipped. So now Guangzhou can play this very slow Scooby. Scoob does trade Galaxy, but Miracle's popping off, and Pink finds Viraja as well. Scoob with another Gravitic Flux. That's a really fast kill. He just used it last fight, but does get taken out. Double kill from Miracle onto Balakay and Scoob, and Eevee's just going to have to try to die as fast as possible so he can get back quick enough to contest.
Scoop with a big assist there for Miracle, lifted him up for the high noon. Probably unintentional. With the timing of it all, it looked like he didn't need to do it. But still, that's gonna hurt their chances here for a recontest. And I don't think anyone's actually gonna get there. Yeah, the boop comes in. Scoop is not able to touch the point as ball, and that is gonna be the first point of Oasis going to the Guangzhou Goblins.
Yeah, really good zoning from Galaxy there. Saw him going coast, was able to boop, and also the wall from Kabosu denied his entry into that point. And it was looking really good there for Guangzhou. They looked very solid in this comp, but I'm not anticipating we'll see this comp going into the next maps here.
No, definitely not. You know, I thought they might have been in a little bit of trouble and they had lost that fight with 70%, but they came in and they just held W anyway, even with the poor ult counting that they did. And it looked like Vancouver was just not really ready for it. And that was kind of the decisive fight that cost Vancouver the point there. But now we will see these teams opt for more traditional compositions. We will see that Sigma ball from both sides, and I assume both these Symmetras are going to switch over onto the Tracer. We will see that. The only difference now is that Pink is going to be rocking the Zenyatta, while Az will be on that Mercy.
Yeah, Guangzhou taking some real estate over onto the street side of the map is going to be a little bit better for their Brig. And, but Yoinks 24 already finds Balakay, and Kabosu finds Azzy. That's the backline already down for Vancouver. They just were not ready for this engage, and Kabosu finds Viraja as well. Kabosu, what are you doing? They have families. The point hasn't even unlocked.
I do want to point out something, though. Like, even though Kabosu is the one showing up at the kill feed, he's only got 27% to his ult. That was all just a very, very coordinated dive effort there from Miracle, Yoinks 24, and Kabosu going in. And that's what makes this comp so scary, is if your Tracer, your Ball, your Echo are that coordinated and they're constantly in your backline, it's so hard to get any territory or do anything because you just have the constant threat of your Zen dying.
And Scoob did try to touch point a little bit. Will barely escape with his life. Kabosu decided to use that focusing beam. Might have been a little bit different, but Scoob's still very low, getting chased out by Miracle. High ground has been taken by Vancouver. They are going to try to get some angles with the Zen, play a little bit slower or they have swapped over to the Brig now, though. But Scoob goes in on the back line alone, gets taken out immediately, and Balakay just gets booped down to low ground. Another really good engage from Zecherman and Miracle and Kabosu just lighting up the kill feed. You say he's getting all the final blows. It's another fight with him getting 4 final blows, and this is just a textbook fights from Guangzhou.
Yeah, as their coach, you must be really excited to see how this is working. The way this meta works, you know, you kind of got your 3-3 split, plays like a hybrid, right? Your Brig, your Zen, your Sigma stay on one end, and they kind of poke, keep each other alive, while your dive of the Ball, the Tracer, the Echo, they go in and they find those picks, and Guangzhou is finding picks and then some.
But a quick pulse bomb from Trev finds Galaxy, and he's going to find Pink as well, and Balakay's going to find Miracle. So maybe a little bit too overconfident there and not really playing well enough, but really good pulse bomb coming out from Trev. But Kabosu is going to try to turn this back, but it gets copied and immediately burned out. But too much of a hero play, but that's going to be a really quick flip from Vancouver, but they are up to 88% already. Yeah,
so this is going to be pretty much, you know, they can't lose a fight, and now Balakay falling there, that could be a really, really large pick there from Miracle. Trev there with the hero play, finding that pulse bomb and a few more, but now Miracle wants his say, wants to get that pick back. Looks like he's actually going for a spawn camp onto the Zenyatta as well.
Yep, Mines comes out from Zeecherman, but doesn't find anything. Scoob already finding the backline, and Pink was traded out by Vraja there as well. So it was even for a little bit, but Miracle does find Azzy as well, so that might help them in the recontest. But given their respawn condition, it does not look like it would be the case. But Miracle winning the 1v1 with Trev, and looks like Miracle and Zeecherman might be still trying to live in this backline and trying to get something done here, but Vraja does find Miracle, so that's going to snuff that out.
Yeah, that was a little bit. I wish they had just gotten out and died there. Staying in there for that long is going to give Vancouver a pretty large advantage here. Ults aren't too relevant in this meta. They aren't like too fight winning, but when a team has 5 of them and another team doesn't, that's really in their favor. So Vancouver definitely has the advantage in this fight.
Copy coming out from Vraja, both Transcendence as well, but Viper is going to have a Flux as well, but does get stunned out of it. Kabosu burns Vraja out of the copy before he can get any value, but finds Viper. And they're just, Guangzhou is just turtling on the street side, just trying to live as long as possible, but Kabosu does fall as well, so there's going to be a lot of damage out. And Galaxy is just swinging away, trying to get as much done. And I think Guangzhou, they really have to get back into the game and try and, they are not rolling like they were. Vancouver has made these adjustments, and now they need to adjust to Vancouver's.
Yeah, Scoob there had a great Mines, which kind of kept Guangzhou there out in that streets. That streets is not an area you want to control. It's not an area you want to fight in. And that Mines kept them there for much longer than they wanted to. It's going to be a last fight scenario here with no ults on the field. This is going to come down to who plays this comp better.
Yep. Both teams staging a little bit. Pile drive engage does come from Scoob, doesn't find anything. And the back line of Vancouver has been forced up quite a bit. They're all the way off the point. And much better positioning, but Balakay is getting pressured in the back line, gets taken out by Kabosu, but Trev does win against Miracle, and the Flux does miss, it looks like, but Trev finds Kabosu as well. It's both the DPS down, but Zeecherman with 2, it's even, Zeecherman with 3, but Trev does find Galaxy as well. This is very back and forth. This is going to be very difficult for either team to bring this back, and Zeecherman might have gone a little bit too aggressive, and Pink is not able to touch the point, and that's Vancouver. Looks like they figured it out, and they were able to take the second round. We're going to be going to Gardens.
Guangzhou's coordination really fell apart there near the end. It started, in the beginning of that point, they were very, very coordinated on their dives. The Echo, the Tracer, the Ball were all there with each other, all getting the value they needed. But towards the end there, it kind of felt like the Tracer and the Ball were very disconnected from each other. Yoinks and Miracle were both kind of doing their own thing. I know Yoinks is Zeecherman, but I can't say anything other than that. But they weren't going in together. It felt like they weren't talking to each other as much anymore. I don't know if it was just like the stress, the panic of the point ticking up for their enemy that got to them or what, but they're definitely going to need to make the adjustment and figure it back out here, because they cannot be playing like that if they want to succeed on this comp.
Yeah, it's going to be both teams taking the same rotation. This is the faster rotation to go out the side door if you are looking to take the high ground. Guangzhou looking to make it there first. Actually, it's about even. And Zeecherman going for an early engage, which allows Guangzhou to walk forward. Scoob walking up as well, but a huge roll through from Zeecherman. That was a really good play coming from behind. Very clean. Pink does get traded, but Guangzhou looks like they were able to just get their heads back in the game, refocus, and they just had the better setup for that fight.
Yeah, they were very, very clear on what they were doing there. They waited in position, let their ball bring the enemy to them, and they just collapsed on them. That was a very, very textbook fight. And it's going to give them high ground control and the first cap. Once again, they've capped all 3 points first in this match so far. Definitely showing us what they can do on this composition.
Miracle did find a pick on the Balakay, so that is going to make Vancouver have to wait for that respawn to come back, but Discord is so important. Also, this damage from Zen as well. Very important to this team comp. Zeecherman is scouting a little bit. Kabosu just trying to get a little bit of poke here. Vraja does meet him, and Zeecherman into the backline. Scoob does find Pink, but it's a trade of Zenyatta's for both sides, and we'll have to see what ends up happening. But Zeecherman and Miracle might be in a little bit of trouble here. They're engaging where their backline can't help them, but they do come back to point because they do have the point flipped, so there's not really necessary to walk forward that much. But Pulse Bomb does come out from Miracle, doesn't find anything. Zeecherman rolling through the team, and Mine's out on point. This could be very big, but Miracle finds Vraja, but Trev does find Miracle and Pink with that Pulse Bomb. The rally does come out from Galaxy and kills Azzy. Mine's coming out from Scoob, but looks like it's not going to really find anything, and the copy from Kabosu came out as well. A little bit too heavy of a commit here, but Zeecherman just rolling through for fun and does get out. Kabosu will not find anything with that Sigma ult.
It was a very scrappy fight. You mentioned the overcommitment there from Guangzhou, but I actually think it's okay given the ultimates available for the side of Vancouver here. They only really have their defensive ultimates. They're going to get this Echo ult, and they're going to have this Flux, but they don't really have anything decisive right now. Ulti's team is going to be vying for control here. It's going to be a last fight scenario here for Vancouver.
Yep. Oh, Kabosu gets Vraja before the trance actually pops. That's huge. Need a lot of damage down for Vancouver, and this is gonna be a nightmare scenario. Scoop does get taken out by Miracle as well, and Miracle Flux coming out from Eevee, but finds Pink, and Trev did find Kabosu, but it looks like it's not gonna be enough. It's just Eevee on point, just trying to stall as long as possible, and I don't think anyone can even touch. Vraja might be close, but he is gonna get booped away by Zeecherman. Guangzhou takes the first map 2-1.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't as clean as I was expecting from Guangzhou, but they did pull it out in the end. They are looking a little bit better on this comp, but I definitely think Vancouver can make the adjustments. You mentioned Trev in the pre-show being a very, very solid player, and he definitely had a lot of moments on that map where he showed what he could do. But overall, Guangzhou is just a little bit cleaner on the composition, a little bit more well practiced on it. The dive is much more coordinated, and especially the thing I want to talk about is the back line is seemingly a lot better than Vancouver right now. Azzy is having a lot of trouble keeping Balakay alive. Balakay and Azzy are getting separated way more than they need to be. In this composition, in this Sigma Ball composition, I mentioned during, I believe it was City Center, that your Sigma, your Brig, and your Zen kind of want to stay together, right? That's because your Sigma provides that shield for your Zen, who kind of acts as like a DPS in this comp. The Discord and all that damage he can output is really, really important to this composition's success, right? And the Sigma and the Brig are the ones there to keep him alive. But Zed is designed to be a glass cannon. If he gets separated from his team or he gets away from his team, he doesn't have mobility, doesn't have stuns, doesn't have any way to regroup with his team. So it's on Azalea and Scoop to keep him alive there, or excuse me, on Eevee to keep him alive there. But they're doing a pretty poor job of it. They're letting Balakay get separated from them. The stun isn't coming out onto Yoinks 24. They're unable to keep the dive unit of Guangzhou off of Balakay, and Balakay's just not able to get anything done. And that's the biggest difference between how these two teams are running this comp right now. Is Guangzhou is just being very, very on the nose, on the ball. We're going to go to your Zen, and we're going to take him out of the fight before you can do it to ours. And consistently, every fight, that's what's happening. So Vancouver needs to find a way to deal with this the dive unit of Guangzhou if they want to have a chance to get back into this. But I definitely think they can do it. They have the players. They made the adjustments last map. It wasn't quite enough, but I think going into their map pick, they will definitely have the advantage.
Yeah, and one thing you did say was for Guangzhou, one of the things they struggled with was the fact that Miracle and Zeecherman weren't really diving together. And I actually think that the only reason why I don't think they fixed that, I just think that Vancouver also, Scoob and Trev were also not really diving together either. And I think the biggest difference between these two teams is the fact of the staging of the dive group, because Guangzhou, they have been set up behind the enemy team, scouting where they're coming from, and it's just very difficult, it seems, for Scoob to actually get into the back line and actually get somewhere where he can put on pressure onto Guangzhou's backline, while Zeecherman and Miracle are putting pressure onto Vancouver's backline. I think that's the biggest difference. Is Guangzhou, like you said, this is like a 3-3 split kind of comp. But the beauty in this comp is once you figure out how to bridge the gap between those two, you get your backline, your core group being able to accomplish things while your dive group is engaging. That's really what makes this comp shine and what makes it so powerful. And one of the things that Vancouver, their dive group is going in, but it doesn't seem like their core really knows what to do with it. And at the moment, Guangzhou is just getting a little bit more value out of their engages because they're able to walk forward, or they're able to. Perfect example is that first fight on Gardens when Zeecherman went for the engage on the high ground. Immediately, as soon as Zeech went for the engage, the core was walking forward into their core. And that's exactly what you should be looking for. And the map picked does seem to be Eichenwald, and we are going to be going into it here in 1 second.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that analysis. The core of the roster is very, very important. I did mention this when I was talking about the dive unit, but you put it much better than I did. The core needs to be able to coordinate with the dive group as well, right? And that's one of the reasons why the dive is working so well for Guangzhou, like you mentioned, is because the core knows what to do when the dive is doing stuff. And I feel like, even if Vancouver does know, their core does know what to do, because they can't deal with this dive unit, they're getting a little messed up. But you also mentioned that their dive unit isn't working as well as Guangzhou's. Trev and Scoob aren't talking to each other as much as Yoinks and Miracle is. I would agree with that as well. I just feel like Guangzhou just has a better handle on this composition. But again, it is Vancouver's map pick. They clearly think this is their best pick for the hybrid map type. Eichenwald is a very, very strange map. I used to think that I understood this map very, very well. I kind of go back on that. I don't really understand this map as much as I thought I did. The second point is very, very weird to me. And I just I'm always surprised by how teams choose to attack it. So I'm really excited to see how each of these teams decides to play this map here. Miracle's going to die right away.
Yeah, Miracle maybe going for a little bit of a... I don't even know what that was. That was just a feed if you're asking me. But Zeeterman is still looking to engage on this high ground, but is going to get poked out. Will have to get out here. Scoob tries to counter slam. Will be chasing him around, but without Miracle is already back though. Luckily he was on Tracer, so he could come back very quickly. And Scoob getting into the back line, but Bosu finds Eevee off guard, but Raja will trade that back, and as he might be able to get the res, that is one difference between these two comps. But Trev finding Pink as well, but Miracle will trade back on the enemies Zenyatta as well and find Valakay. But Raja and Azzy still walking up, but Miracle gets Azzy as well as he was flying to the safety of Raja, but wasn't quite close enough. And this has been a very odd fight, just across the board from both teams.
Yeah, this is where that coordination we were talking about of the core pushing really hard when their dive finds something is really important, because we saw a very big lack of decisive action there from the side of Vancouver after getting that early pick. They didn't push their advantage very much. They pushed it like they were still going into a 6v6. Like, they didn't just hold W, their core didn't just go in and try to take territory that they could get. Miracle's down. They don't have a dive composition. You can go in, but they didn't.
Yeah, and the very difficult thing is they are running this Mercy, so they can't exactly walk into this Brig. That's exactly what they were worried about, is regardless if a Miracle is alive or not. And Raja, it might find Viper here, but the rally does come out from Galaxy. Will save him. Copy onto the Tracer on Raja. But immediately gets burned out. Really gets stunned from Galaxy, but Miracle trades Valakay as well in the midst of all that fighting. And Azzy might be looking to try to get the res, but Eevee's really low as well, and just, it looks like Vancouver is just kind of scratching their heads trying to figure out how to engage against this comp. And it's just, the difference with that Brig, having that Brig versus that Mercy, and I would imagine that Azzy would maybe be trying to switch to the Brig here soon after using that Valk. Will be swapping, because you really do need to match that Brawl, or else it's going to be very difficult to actually do anything. Yeah,
that Brig allows you a lot of staying power with that stun and with that whip shot, and especially with that rally. Now the switch is out, but it might be too little too late. There's a lot of ultimates available here for Guangzhou. They're definitely going to be able to have the advantage in this fight.
Yeah, Kabosu copying the Sigma. The pulse bomb did go wide from Miracle. Kabosu just trying to get the Flux. Does get the copied Flux. Is getting focused down by Vraja. Does force the Transcendence. That's very valuable. But Eevee coming back with the Flux of his own, but does seem to miss. And Viper with a return Flux without that Transcendence would be very easy, and Valakay does fall. But Mine's on point from Scoob, but he was a little bit too deep without his team being able to help him. And it does get taken out. But Kabosu dying to the pulse bomb somehow. And Vancouver, they might be able to just sustain a little bit and try to recontest here with their respawn advantage. But looks like Viper keeping up the pressure. Does find Trev as well. And this is kind of a disaster from Vancouver. This is their map pick, and they look completely lost.
Yeah, there was that lack of decisive action there too. They didn't know whether they could stay in and poke, or they needed to back out. They decided too late, and now that you lost their Tracer, and that pulse bomb is now going to take down Valakay. Guangzhou is finding all the openings right now. There's only 30 seconds left for Vancouver to get something done.
Yeah, I feel like Vancouver hasn't even gotten a real fight here. And Zeeterman setting up behind is getting chased out by Trev, but Eevee's dropping very low. Zeeterman will get taken out by Trev, but he will be back very quickly. But Vancouver, they need to know that now is the time to walk in without the pressure from that ball. But Scoob dropping very low already on the engage, but get taken down immediately, and Miracle finds him. copy from Vraja onto the Sigma, walking forward into Viper, but immediately has to use his grasp, and Transcendence does come out from Pink, and just in time the Flux does come out, but it's too late already. Azzy and Balk has already fallen. Pink does take out Eevee as well. Vraja just trying to get as much done as possible, but it's not going to be very easy into this rallying Brig. Scoob just getting a beating on point, well as Trev, and that's a full hold. I don't think Vancouver, I think, only touched the point once.
Yeah, you did mention they hadn't really got a real fight. I personally, I do a little bit of coaching with lower ranked teams, and one of the most important things I teach when I'm teaching comm structure is the reset call. Calling for a reset, calling for a full back out, full regroup is really important, even at the highest levels of play, right? Lower elos, people trickle in, so it's more important. But even in the higher elos, right? If you forget to reset, you lose a ton of time. And that's what happened to Vancouver right there. They never called for a reset, and they just kept getting picked before they were ready to go in. And they ended up losing almost a minute and a half solely off of stagger picks coming through from Miracle or Caboser or even a Viper at some points, right? And that's why it's so important. You need that reset call. You need to group up so you don't waste that time like that. I really felt like Vancouver just tossed away their own options here. So we're going to have to see if they can put together a solid defense here. But given the differences between these two teams that we've seen so far, Guangzhou is looking poised to take this map.
Yeah, I think you have to give some credit to Guangzhou as well. They were able to, I think a lot of the thing as well, or a lot of the reason why Vancouver was struggling so much was because Guangzhou was just engaging before Vancouver could even get in. And it's just very difficult to try to take this when you feel like you're getting choked out from all angles. You have Zeecherman and you have Miracle into the back line. And a little bit of interesting comp decisions coming out from Guangzhou. They are going to be running a rush, a little bit of sinning here. We'll have to see if this works out or not. It's going to be very important that they actually do get onto the back line. It might be they're just walking forward into Eevee, and they have to back up really hard. This might just be the end already, and immediately Eevee and Balak just get taken out immediately. And now it's all down to Scoob gets frozen, and when he goes in for that engage, and Vraja does fall to Miracle as well. That's just... How does this happen? Let them just walk right into the choke, and that's just... Really quick,
domination.
Yeah, really quick 2-0 already from Guangzhou, winning Eichenwald, winning Vancouver's map pick. In a very convincing fashion, a much more convincing fashion than Oasis was.
Yeah, the last fight there, what it came down to is Guangzhou moved a little bit faster than Scoob was prepared for, and the dive unit ended up going in into a spot that Guangzhou was no longer in. So they tried to engage at the first choke, and Scoob used his pile drive, which is a really, really good ability against that rush, right? You can hit so many people with that ability if you time it correctly, and he hit 0 people with it, and then he was behind with by the time he was able to start moving again, Guangzhou was already on the point. He just took way too long. There was a big miscommunication there from the dive unit of Vancouver, and they ended up blowing some cooldowns and blowing a lot of time, and it allowed Eevee to get run down in a spot where the rest of his team couldn't really help him, and it all just fell apart from there, right? And that's why against a brawl composition, that dive unit is so important, because they need to be on the important members of that brawl unit. Brawl wants to put their head down and just run at something, right? They want to hold W like Guangzhou did. They just found Eevee and they were like, all right, we're going to kill you now, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? But the dive unit of Vancouver, if they are able to get on the back line of Guangzhou, or even on some of the DPS characters, any of the squishy characters, that dive unit can collapse well enough and get on them and prevent them from just holding W, it's a way better comp, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Once Vancouver messes up that dive, it's kind of just all over from there. And I think Guangzhou recognized it, and they really pushed it to 11. And they took their second map here, and now we're 2-0 going into Vancouver's map pick. But Guangzhou just looks dominant right now.
Yeah, and one thing that's very important to also highlight, I think, is it also could have been the fact that Vancouver did not adequately scout the enemy composition as they're rolling out of spawn. They probably just assumed they were going to roll out onto meta, and the fact that you're locked out of seeing the tab hero screen until 15 seconds into the match. But if Guangzhou is already onto your backline before you can even hit tab to see what they're playing, you need to make sure you know what they're playing so you can adjust your play style, and so that Scoob needs to know how he needs to play, because in this matchup between the Rush and the Sigma Ball comp is very important that your Echo and your Ball and your Tracer get a lot of value while the Rush is in rotation, while they can't actually reach anyone. And that's exactly what went wrong for Vancouver, is they weren't able to, like you said, Scoob went for the engage, but by the time Guangzhou was long gone, they were already in the next town. And it was just, looks like they just didn't quite expect it, and they did not scout adequately. But going into the next map, it is going to be Assault, and we are able to play, even though like the map pool is completely open. Horizon Lunar Colony and Paris still are not able to be played because they are not
Thank God.
competitively viable right now. I'm really hoping that Blizzard figures that out at some point, because they've been out of the pool for a very long time, and it's getting a little stale with only 3 Assault maps. But we'll have to see what Vancouver ends up picking here. I think that definitely it's very difficult to try to predict where they would want to go, because it just seems like they're getting outclassed in every aspect by Guangzhou. They don't really seem to show any strengths, or that Guangzhou doesn't just already do better. And maybe that's a little bit of bias, but I think it's also just very clear that Guangzhou has them in a chokehold, and they're looking to finish this early and go to bed.
Yeah, it is past their bedtimes. They're all a bunch of young guys on that team. But, I think we got to break down, what we could see here. Actually, they will end up picking Volskaya, which is the one map I was going to say, do not pick, because Sigma Ball is really good on this map. And as someone who has had the pleasure, or more like, the despair of having to scrim against Guangzhou on this map, it sucks playing them on this map. They're really good at it. They know exactly what they're doing here. And it's very, very suffocating the way they play it. They're really good, especially on first point defense, of playing very split and collapsing on the same targets. Playing split can be very, very hard for some teams, because, you all have to engage at the right times. But Guangzhou is so good throughout the lineup that they all know what they're doing. They're always there for the follow-up there. So definitely, this is pretty scary here for Vancouver. Obviously it's their map pick, so they're not bad on it either. But I would say of the maps that are available for Assault, this is also Guangzhou's best map.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely have been, while I've been coaching Vancouver, or not Vancouver, sorry, Guangzhou. As I've been coaching Guangzhou, I also have been helping them improve their game on Volskaya as well, by helping them think a little bit more about their rotations and how they approach fights and their map control. And I think that's also going to be hopefully showcased in this match. But, to be honest, we might just get another full hold if the trend continues. But it is going to be, like you said, this is a very good map for Guangzhou. But I think, honestly, it was just kind of looking doom and gloom anyway for Vancouver. There's not really... They have to figure out something now if they want to continue playing, and if they want to continue in this match. And I will remind people that there is a loser's bracket. So if Vancouver loses this, they aren't going to be out, but it is generally a long task to try to grind your way through the loser's bracket. And we'll have to see what ends up happening here. But we do have Guangzhou starting on the defense. And my bet is we might be seeing the Ash Mercy coming out here, or they might just be sticking with the Echo because Kabosu is still in. But one thing that I would say is a bright spot for Vancouver is this is a map where they do seem to prefer the Mercy over the Brig, and they do look a lot stronger on that comp. And this is definitely a map where Mercy works fairly well, especially if they do decide to play that Ash instead of the Echo. But they also did show the Mercy and the Echo as well. And like I said, we do have the Ash Mercy from Guangzhou on this defense. And one difference, we have the Zeecherman Roadhog. He pulled this out in a scrim the other day, and it was questionable, but it worked, I guess. So we'll have to see what he ends up doing with this.
Yeah, Roadhog is sort of like Ball in the sense that he's very survivable. he's not part of a dive, which, you know, I guess is okay. They seem to kind of be going full on for this. We'll play multiple angles that we can kill you from and not bothering with the dive. It kind of feels like, you know, Miracle will be doing their own thing, not really waiting for engage from the ball. And Zeecherman's just going to be off to the side looking for hooks. Kabosu's going to be up top looking for picks with that Mercy pocket. This just looks like a full angle pick composition that we saw back in the last days of Overwatch League.
Yeah, and Vraja is onto that Ashe as well, so it's going to be the Ashe Mirror, Kabosu versus Vraja. We'll have to see who ends up getting the better end of that, but Miracle already finding Trev as he was trying to take that flank, and the rest of Guangzhou just kind of chilling, but Scoob is already kind of set up in the back line, but Zeecherman might find him here. Scoob does see him because of the third-person cam, does move a little bit, but now they know that that ball is on that side of the map, and Vancouver rotating through the side, but Trev gets hooked by Zeecherman. They seem to have forgotten that a giant round man was hiding in that room, but Azzy also dying to Miracle as well. Looks like the synergy is probably better with them playing Hog Tracer than it is with them playing Ball Tracer, but Balaki with a really good 5 orb here finds Miracle, but Galaxy is going to be able to res this. Scoob does try to deny it, but does get hooked in by Zeecherman, and wasn't expecting that to happen, and it's just going to be really easy for Vancouver, or sorry, for Guangzhou to just walk in and clean up the remainder of Vancouver.
Yeah, Vancouver needs to find a way to stay alive long enough for Scoob to actually get in position for a dive. What they're looking for is they're looking to dive the Sigma, the Zen, the Ashe Mercy, right? That's where all the damage, all the scary damage is coming from, right? If they can take that out of the fight, the rest of their team can walk through. But Trev and the rest of their team is just dying before Scoob can set up a dive, and it's really impacting their ability to break this choke.
Yep. Pulse Bomb does come out onto Vraja from Miracle. They are going to have to wait for that, but the res is going to come out, and Miracle will not be able to deny that. Zeecherman did have to fall back a little bit because he did get pressured, and Vraja onto the McCree now, I might add. And Miracle looking to get a little bit more damage, maybe feeling himself a little bit, and Vancouver pushing up to the opposite high ground. And Scoop dropping very low. I get taken out, but will end up falling with his life. But Zeecherman with the zoning whole hog, trying to make sure that they don't come anywhere near him. A little bit show of force, and it's a flank right now, and does find the flank onto forces the trance. That's really valuable from Zeecherman, but does get immediately taken out. Vraja does find Miracle as well. Zeecherman will get rezzed by Galaxy due to that Val. Scoob going to be setting up for a dive here, but does get stuck in the doorway and will have to fall back as well. And Vancouver has migrated over to the point, but Bob is going to put a little bit of a hamper in that. But they are just going to back up a little bit, but the tanks are very low, and Zeecherman is just having the time of his life over here. Is Galaxy going to go for this res? No, he will not go for that res, but almost flies back into a mine. High Noon does come out from Vraja, but not finding any targets as they're not peeking, but the Transcendence does come out. Viper is rezzed by, but Miracle finds Vraja as well. These health bars are very low for the side of Vancouver, and I'm honestly amazed that Guangzhou was able to turn that around. And Zeecherman, the fun is over. He is back onto the ball, but it was definitely a very, very good performance on that Roadhog.
Yeah, it was fun while it lasted. He definitely got a lot done there. He and Miracle kept going in, even when like all 6 members of Vancouver were grouped up back there, and they were still going in. And I was about to commend their confidence, but then they got picked there, and it gave Vancouver an opportunity. That once again, that lack of decisive action that we saw from Vancouver stops them again from getting a point here.
Yeah, Kabosu finding Vraja, and the Flux does set up a very easy kill for Kabosu onto Eevee as well. Pulse Bomb comes out onto Viper, will fall, but Galaxy will be there for the res. Trev and Scoob having to touch the point, but Miracle and Pink have their number. And Balakay does find Zeecherman, but it's all up to Scoob to try to get something done. He is going to be taken out before he can even finish the pile driver. Vraja back onto the legs, but will not be able to touch. That's another full hold from Guangzhou.
Yeah, we mentioned they were going to be scary on this map, and there you go. Very, very good at playing those angles, but honestly, they didn't really have to do that much work. You mentioned how much work you put on in their rotations. I don't think the core of their roster rotated like a single time. They pretty much just stayed up on that right side. Exactly. No, there was no real need for them to. The Vancouver didn't really put a lot of pressure on them there. We mentioned, their inability to set up. very well. They couldn't set up the dive and also the core of their roster. They had a chance there when they got the core of their roster through into that high ground. But again, like Miracle and Zeterman just kept the pressure on, even when it was like 2v6. And I think Vancouver just got a little bit in their own heads and you know, scared because of how well Miracle's been playing. And they respected him just a little bit too much. And they allowed themselves to get stuck over there for a little bit too long. And once they took him out, you know, still it was in their heads. They didn't make the decision quick enough. They didn't get in position quick enough, and Guangzhou was just able to survive long enough for their abilities to you know, just be in the right place, and they were able to bring that one back. Big stall there from Bob. I will give him credit. One of the big things about this Ash Tracer composition, and that makes it so good on Volsky, is the fact that you can just throw Bob on point when you have it, and no one needs to drop off that high ground. They can all stay up there, all stay in that good position, and Bob can be the one who sits on point with his big health pool, taking all that damage, taking all those resources away from the rest of the composition. But you know, this is do or die now for Vancouver. They're going to be coming out with a Widow McCree here, and it's going to be their last stand against Guangzhou. They need to full hold if they want to stay alive in this game.
Yeah, and Guangzhou, they are trying some kind of weird strat here, but I think they've earned the ability to sin, and a huge anti comes out from Pink, but the Kinetic Grasp is going to eat most of the damage coming in, and none of those kills are going to get secured, but they are going to be humbled on that angle, and Trev just trying to find something while the shields get spammed out. But Miracle finds Faraj in the back line, but immediately traded by Trev. And oh, another teleport play right into As. He wasn't ready for that. Really extremely big brain plays coming out from Kabosu onto the Symmetra. And it's a very awkward fight right now because of that teleporter putting Guangzhou, but with that in a really weird spot, but with the man advantage, it isn't going to matter. Eve is just getting melted by the Symbian. Kabosu just lasering people, and Vraja does get the one clip on a Kabosu. So if Vancouver can get back here fast, it might be possible, but no, it's not. That's just going to be the end of the series. A very quick 3-0 from Guangzhou to send Vancouver straight into the losers bracket.
Yeah, no, that was a very decisive fight there, or a very decisive match, I should say. Guangzhou clearly the better team, clearly more confident there. We talked about them almost the entire match, but really there was no reason not to. They played very, very well this match, even pulling out their meme comp at the end. I don't think I've ever seen a playoff match decided by a Sim TP directly in the middle of another team.
Hey, man, they're taking a whole new level to dive Orisa. Or whole new meaning.
I mean, like, yeah, I just don't know how I feel about Dive Orisa, you know? That's just kind of, I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it, I guess. You know, they won the fight. I guess there's nothing wrong there, but it was just a little strange, a little awkward there. Sim Genji, definitely a new meta going into this next patch, hopefully. But, you know, that's gonna do it for this game. Guangzhou is going to take it over Vancouver. We will be getting an interview in here shortly. Looks like it's going to be Miracle.
Yeah, player of the match, Miracle, like we said at the very beginning, insane player, doing a lot of work onto that Tracer and also onto the Genji there at the end. But that definitely is putting in the work for this team, getting a lot of value just by himself. And we are going to be getting him for the interview just shortly here. And here he is. Miracle, congratulations on that win. 3-0 over Vancouver. How are you feeling right now?
Pretty good, I guess. It's kind of boring, but
yeah. My first question. Oh, you want to take the first one?
Go ahead.
All right. You know, I got a question for you. You really looked like you didn't really care what Vancouver was throwing at you that entire game. You were running it down regardless of where your team was at. You were always in their backline, even when there were times where maybe you shouldn't have been. What kind of what gives you so much confidence to be able to make plays like that on that Tracer?
I want to look cool in the co-feed, and you know, I want people to think I'm cool and shit.
Yeah,
well, good reason.
I want to kill everything. Basically.
As definitely all people were talking about in the Twitch chat, so you definitely ended up. I mean, mostly that was mostly from Dalton, so that might be part of it. But yeah, but just looking at this match, because you won this, you now have to play San Francisco in the next stage of the bracket, and they beat New York, and that was a huge upset. So what are you looking forward to, like, in playing that match?
I don't really know anything about them, so I can't answer that. But
that's
it's gonna be fun, I guess.
Yeah, and
We're gonna win, so doesn't matter.
yeah, and the fact that Guangzhou did lose to New York in the regular season and San Francisco beat New York in the playoffs, does that mean that San Francisco is better than you?
We have like a whole new team now, bro. I don't think so.
Don't think so. Well, you heard it here first. Looks like it's gonna be a quick 3-0 on from Guangzhou on San Francisco as well. Do you have anything to add, Misfit? Anything else?
I mean, I think that kind of confidence is exactly what we expect out of you, Miracle, given how you played tonight. So I definitely think that's a good mindset going in. My last question for you is going to be, I always like to ask this, obviously you were in the kill feed a lot tonight. You showed up a lot. You were player of the match. But is there anyone else on your team or in your org that you want to shout out? Maybe they do stuff behind the scenes for you, doing stuff in the comm structure that doesn't exactly show up in the kill feed. Anyone you want to shout out who did a really good job tonight?
Dalton is my inspiration, but he didn't play today, so Kabosi did really good. I'm proud of him. The 3300 DPS god.
True.
That he
Yeah,
is.
it was honestly a team diff the entire time. But thank you for thank you for coming out for this interview. Congratulations on your win, and we'll talk with you later. So now we can talk about the bracket again. So like I said, because Guangzhou won this match, now they will be playing San Francisco. And like I said, New York did beat Vancouver, or did beat Guangzhou in the regular season, but San Francisco beat New York. Now I know that doesn't exactly translate 1-for-1, but it is important to recognize that this is a different San Francisco, and they are looking to just be a dark horse. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Guangzhou can shut them down here in the next stage of this tournament. And I think that also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that also puts New York versus Vancouver. Is it?
I haven't seen the losers bracket. The only bracket I've had to go off of is the one in announcements that has the winner's side. So I don't know what the losers bracket looks like right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we are still waiting to get some of the losers bracket stuff sorted out between Seoul and Boston. And then we should have our losers bracket matches available to look at here shortly. But yeah, just very solid play from Guangzhou across the board. Just kind of being better in every way than Vancouver. So we'll have to see. The losers bracket offers a chance for redemption for these teams. So if Vancouver puts in the work, and they did show signs of life on Oasis, but just the other maps, it looked very, very difficult for them. I think that they should be happy that the losers bracket is a thing, because it is definitely one of those things where they can come back and still win it. They are not completely out of the tournament yet, and it looks like I've been informed that it is correct. New York will be playing Vancouver in the losers bracket, and Boston will be playing Seoul. So that is how the losers bracket is going to be shaken up, and that's gonna be a tough match for Vancouver. But if they can win that, then they can definitely prove that they are ready to come back and keep fighting through this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously, I think the match everyone's going to be looking out for next week is going to be Guangzhou versus San Francisco. You mentioned it briefly, but I want to say, I'm going to make a prediction right now, actually. Given what I know about Guangzhou and given what I've seen about San Francisco, I actually think San Francisco is going to win that game, to be completely honest with you. I think Guangzhou is very, very good. It's spicy. And, I mean, like, hey, I like Guangzhou. I think they're good guys. But I feel like, especially tonight, we saw it, they did get overconfident in several parts of it. And against a team like Vancouver, they're able to do that. But with how San Francisco has been playing and how coordinated they've been looking, it really felt like San Francisco has beat some teams very badly in this tournament, right? It has beat some teams very, very badly in playoffs, right? And not once did they get overconfident. Not once did they lose their discipline, right? So it's going to be a battle of that. I think the skill level is pretty equal. Spar Chief and Xiphon obviously being the names to look out for on the side of San Francisco, doing a very, very excellent job right now. Sarang also, don't want to take anything away from him. So I'm going to be looking forward to that match very, very much. I'm definitely going to be trying to cast it. And I think it will be a very, very good game. But I think right now, if Guangzhou doesn't focus up and ready up and come to that match prepared to win, then they're gonna have a tough time against the disciplined San Francisco roster. We heard it from Miracle. They go there, they expect to win. They don't think it'll be very, very hard. And if they keep that attitude up, I think it could actually go to San Francisco.
Yeah, and I guess the yin to your yang, I guess I think that it's gonna be a very easy 3-0 from Guangzhou. So we can see who ends up being that one, but I think it's definitely good that we do have the difference in opinion. But I do agree with that. Like Guangzhou is known for kind of letting loose a little bit once they start to get a lead, and that can be taken advantage of by better teams. But I think that they have done pretty well recently at trying to refocus after that happened. We saw that on Oasis when they lost City Center after kind of fumbling for a little bit. But they came back really hard on Gardens and were able to just completely refocus and turn it back to 11. And I think that it's going to be a very interesting match, but I think that it's just going to be a miracle diff again. So I think it's going to be an easy 3-0 for Guangzhou.
Well, that's the beauty of playing the games is, we don't know until the I guess what would be, I'm trying to say like the final whistle blows, but there's not really whistles in Overwatch until the final narrator moans, I guess. I don't know. We'll see how it goes is what I'm trying to say here. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a very good game either way. And, with the losers bracket being a thing, neither team will be knocked out because they neither have lost yet in the playoffs. So we have the potential for that and the potential for a run back in Grands if it goes there. It's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of playoff action coming up in Simplicity Mock Overwatch League, but that is going to do it for our broadcast tonight. Thank you all for coming out and joining us for this game, and we hope to see you next time. Anything left for you, Sezian?
No, I think that's it. Thanks for coming out, guys. Thanks for watching this match. Very quick one. I'm going to get to go eat dinner early, so I'm a little bit happy about that. But thanks for stopping by. Stay tuned for our next playoff match. Our 2 playoff matches are now going to be for semifinals are going to be like we said, Guangzhou versus San Francisco and Dallas versus Houston. So those are both very interesting games showing up. So we are going to be very excited to bring those to you here shortly once those get scheduled. And we will wish you guys a good night and see you in the next stream.